Hello everyone and welcome back to JavaScript lessons on Codecademy. So last time we looked at more advanced things on objects, and today we're actually going to be using that to build something of our own. So in this project we'll combine our knowledge of objects and arrays to create a simple contact list. Then using functions we'll be able to log the entries in our contact list to the console, as well as search for a particular entry. So we're going to be probably making something like this, and I won't review this because it's quite long. So let's just move on for now. Creating your contact object. First we need to start with an object to hold our friends. Create an object called friends. So okay, let's do that. And if you don't remember how to make an object, you say var the name of the object equals new and object with parentheses, and of course a semicolon at the end. Feel free to use either object literal notation or the object constructor. Check the hint if you need a syntax reminder. So how many, I know how to add those, I just don't know how many friends we need to add. Okay, I guess none. Okay, oh yeah, okay, adding your friends. So good, now let's add some friends to our friends object. Each friend will need a name, phone number, and so on. We will use a new object for each friend so that we can remember their information. That's right, so we'll have objects within objects, with which you can do just like you can put arrays within arrays. So add a few empty objects to your friend's object. Make sure you add a friend named Bill and a friend named Steve. Use your friends' names as the keys for the empty projects. So that's called that variable, or that object is called friends, and then we need to make a new variable called, which I will call a friend, or do we need to call it something specific? Add a few empty objects to your yeah, I think that this is what we can do. I hope so. So let's actually read that again. We need to add a few empty objects to your friend's object. Make sure you add a friend named Bill and Steve. If I understand this correctly, I think that we can just do it like this. So here we go. And then to this we need to make two of these objects, which will be called Steve so a friend dot name, I guess, equals, one of them is Steve and the other one is what, and Bill. And no, actually we don't need to do this. We can literally just do copy and paste that. Let's see if that works. Nope, it doesn't. Okay, so those need to be lowercase, I'm guessing. Is that what it's asking us to do? Did you add Bill to the friends object? Well, we are trying to do that. Or is it because of the semicolon? It might be because of that. No, it's not. Okay, I will come back. So I was actually thinking of the incorrect thing when I looked up in the hint. So you are supposed to make them as objects, but in a different way. So you need to initialize an object inside the object. So there are three ways of doing this. One of which, well, two of which we learned. So we learned this and this. So I'll explain both. You make, for the first example, oops, I did not mean to do that. You make the variable or the object friends, and inside that object you make Bill and Steve, which both contain which are both objects, or you can put stuff in them just like you would in friends, hence the curly brackets. The other way, which we learned, is doing something like this. So friends, and with the square brackets, Bill equals like that, or doing it like this, dot Steve equals that. A new way, which the hint is telling us about, is you can initialize it like this. So friends.bill equals new object, and that also works. So if we save and submit code, as you can see, these 6 lines don't get executed, which means that only these 3 lines get executed, so they do work. I think that I will actually be using these 2 lines in combination with this 1 line if it's a carry through. So yeah, I will just delete everything else that I have, and there we go. Just not be confusing. So we have made an object called friends, and inside it we have initialized 2 other objects, one called Steel? No, not Steel. One of them called Steve, and the other one Bill. And now we have 2 objects inside one other object. So let's see what this task wants us to do. Next, let's add some properties to our friends. We'll want them to have a first name, a last name, and a number. So give each of your friends a first name, last name, and a number. The value for each of these should be a string. And make sure Bill's first name is Bill and Steve's first name is Steve. Again, note capitalization. So when you're initializing it, they have to be lowercase apparently. So yeah, just another thing to add on there. So how we can do this, the next task, I think that we can just write in here more things. So we'll do it like this. And let's see. So we need to have first name, first name colon Steve. Nope, this is Bill actually. Bill, comma. Then we need to have last name. I don't know, Bill. What should I call him? Bill. Oh wow, can't think of any surnames right now. Bill Smith. Yeah, and I'll make them brothers because I can't be creative enough. So Bill and Steve are brothers right now. Then we have his number, and his number can be, I don't know, I'll just do the same thing as they had done before. Is that the correct thing? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Bill, and instead of Bill I will put Steve there. So let's see what happens. As we can see, it works. This shouldn't be printed out. I don't know why it's printed out. So what we're doing here is, so we've initialized our friends object, and in that friends object we have added 2 new objects, one of which is called Bill, the other one is called Steve. Each of those objects contains new variables which are all strings, and so these new objects contain the object's name, the last name, and their number. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, feel free to ask. I will try to explain it a bit more clearly. So let's move on. Tossing in an array. So let's add another property to each of our friends and set it equal to an array. Give each of your friends an address property and break up their address into an array like so. So I'm guessing we're going to break it up in lines or something like that. Okay, add an address property to each, blah blah blah. Okay, we know how to do it. So you need to add a comma after each thing. Oops. And I don't know if you have to do it on a separate line, but it's definitely easier to do it on a separate line because it's a lot clearer. And I will just copy that because they're brothers and they can live in the same house for now. There we go. So as we can see, that also works. So let's move on. List them all. Great work. Now let's add a couple of functions to help us go through our contacts. The first function we'll create will be called list, and it will print out all the entries we have in our friends object. To do this, we'll want to use a bit of new syntax, a for in loop. So we have learned what a for loop is now. I guess that we're going to see what an for in loop is now as well. So what the keyword in means. The key bit can be any placeholder name you like. It's sort of like when you put a placeholder parameter name in a function that takes arguments. So the key bit can be called I, which is what you will normally meet in a for loop. So what we need to do is create a function called list So I think that's a function, I believe, is created like this. New function, or was it just func? I think it was function with the semicolon. I hope it was like that. If it's not, I will just look at the hint. In the body of the function, write a for in loop. So, oh, okay, that makes, oh, a for in loop, right? So this is just like Python, or not just like Python, but quite similar. So I actually love using for in loops. They're very useful. So for, and you have variable, I will call it I in, and our object in this case is friends. So for I in friends, did I spell that correctly? Yes, I did. And we will want to do something. In the body of the function, write a for in loop. No, in the body of the function. So that's the body of the function. I will indent that and put another closing curly bracket there. In the loop, use console.log. So let's do that. To print out the key. So print out I. For example, if you only have Bill and Steve as entries, list should print out Bill and Steve. So let's see if that's correct. Nope, we have done something wrong. Did you create the function called list? Variable list. Let's just see if I'm doing that right. Equals function, and do we need to, I don't think that we need to take anything as an argument, or do we have to take this as an argument? Nope. Okay. In object, so console.log. Okay, I will look at this and come back. What the error was that I actually had an extra keyword there. So I added in a new function because I still had that in my head from objects that we were doing. But you shouldn't add, so instead of this, you should just remove the new, and everything works as expected now. As we can see, what gets printed out is Bill and Steve, because that is what's contained in friends. And then those also get printed out. I don't understand why, but they just do, I guess. Oh no, they get printed out because Codecademy is doing a bad job. So just ignore that and stick to this. So let's move on. Search for a friend. The second function we'll add will be called search, and it will take a first name as an argument. It will try to match the first name it receives to any of the first names in our friends contact list. If it finds a match, it will log our friend's contact information to the console. Okay, that actually sounds quite interesting, and this can be quite useful if you can know how to do it. So let's define a function called search without the new keyword there, because that's what gave me an error last time. And this function is going to be to take name. If the argument passed to the function matches any of the first names in friends, it should log that friend's contact information to the console and return it. So if, and in the parentheses, if name equals, oops, we need a for loop in here, don't we? So we need another for in loop, var I in friends. Let's nest this correctly and also indent that. I will explain once I've done it how it actually works. So if name equals I, then console.log I, and the values of I actually as well. That's an interesting way of doing it. So I think that you can do it with a for loop. So I will do it with a for loop then. Another for loop inside the for loop and the if statement. So for var n, in this case, in I, do something. And that something is going to be console.log. What am I going to log? I'm going to log n, and then because of the return, After the if statement, I will need to return. What do I need to return? Log that friend's contact information to the console and return it. So let's make another variable called something like var contact info equals nothing at first, but then I meant to do that, plus equals n. I hope I'm not overcomplicating this. I will explain what I'm actually doing. Contact info. 7 submit. Okay, we have done something wrong. It looks like your search function doesn't return contact information for Steve. So if it doesn't return contact information for Steve, it's not going to return contact information for Bill either. Let's see what's going to happen if we literally just call search and put Bill in here. It prints out 0, 1, 2, and 3. Interesting. Okay, I will have to look at this in a bit more detail. Basically, what I was doing was too overcomplicated, so this is how you're actually supposed to do it, and I will go through to explain it. So this function is which is called search, takes in one argument, name. So and then that's all we have. Now to be able to look through each element in our friends list, we have to use a loop, and in this case a for in loop is the easiest thing to use, which is what I use. So we go through friends list and we say if what you're looking at in friends list is equal to name, or actually if the element that you're looking at, so I is only a number, it doesn't represent the name. So if Bill was in the first position, it would probably be a 0. It wouldn't be Bill, which is why we have to do this. So you need to take friends with the key of I, which says Bill, and that's just the variable, and then you need to take the name of that person's. You need to how to explain this? So you need to get the name which is contained within that variable, which is why you do first name. So basically what you're doing is you're giving 0 to friends, which returns Bill, yeah, because Bill is stored first in friends. So you're giving 0 to friends, returns Bill, and then once you get Bill, you get the first name of Bill, which is Bill. You can do last name and compare it to last name as well, but that's if you want another search function. So if these two names match, then what you're saying is print out whatever is contained under the variable Bill, and then also return it. So just to be clear, this only gives the variable Bill. It doesn't get his name, because let's look at it visually. As we can see, what's stored under Bill, the object Bill, is all of these 4 things. So if you're comparing Bill to name, it's going to be confused because you're comparing a string to an object, and it's probably going to give you a syntax error. Now to avoid that, you have to take the first name that's in Bill. So inside this, you need to find the first name, which in this case is Bill, and compare it to name given. And if that is true, then all of this happens. I hope I've explained that clearly enough. If I haven't, please do tell me in the comments down below. I will do my best to re-explain it again. So for now, let's save and submit, and let's continue. Great work, you've created your own list of contacts that you can search through. Try calling both your functions, adding additional friends, changing the fields you include for each friend, and more to customize your new object. So you can actually use this as an actual program to store contacts in. It can be that useful. We did some basic logging of your contact list to the console, but we could have made it look even nicer. How might you format the output to look like this? So you could take the key of the object and print out whatever is stored under the key to do something like this. Just something to keep in mind. But that's not that complicated, but if you want to try it out, I would recommend it. But for now, that is actually it. That's all that I'm going to do here, because this lesson was actually quite long and it took me even longer to make, because it was a bit more complicated and on a higher level. So yeah, if you can learn this, if you can get your head around this, then you will probably do quite well with arrays and lists in JavaScript and other programming languages as well, because all programming languages are quite similar. So if you have any questions, as I said before, feel free to ask in the comments down below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, click the dislike button and tell me how I can improve for next time. Please also subscribe, which makes me want to do even more videos for you guys so that you can learn more. But until next time, again, thank you so much for watching and goodbye.